In this lesson, we will learn how to calculate the area of a circle. I could make this lesson very short by just simply telling you what the formula for the area of a circle is, but I don't want to do that. I don't want you to just simply memorize the formula for the area of a circle. I want you to understand the formula for the area of a circle. So to help us understand the formula, we're going to use this circle here that I've already sectioned off into eighths. So there are 8 equal segments in this circle. What we're going to do is pull this circle apart, pull each segment apart, and rotate the segments, and then put them back together to form a new shape, but a shape that we already recognize and are already able to work with. So I'm going to pull these apart and create that new shape. Let's continue. I have finished taking apart our circle to create a new shape. Let's take a look at this shape, and what does it kind of look like? If I draw some lines around this, we might be able to see it a little bit easier. Let's draw 4 lines around what we have here, and let's take a look now. If I move this away, the green from the circle, we can see that we formed basically a parallelogram. And if I take the segments of our circle and move them back in, you can see how the segments of the circle fill in the area of this parallelogram. So we can use the area of a parallelogram to help us with our formula for the area of a circle, because we can see that for the most part, with the exception of this little bit of white in here, that the circle fills in this parallelogram shape. So what we already know is that the area of a parallelogram is equal to the length of the base times the height. Let's think of this, though, in terms of a circle. Let's start by looking at the base. So the base is this length here, and this base is going to be made up of the circumference of the circle divided by 2. Now the reason for this is if we look at each section or each segment and we look at the curved part of each segment, if we added these together, so this curve plus this curve plus this curve and this curve and all the other curves, if we put all of these together, first of all we'll see that they form a circle, and we saw that when we started before we took these segments apart. But we can also see that that curve, all those curves added together, will form the circumference. However, we're not concerned with the length of this side plus the length of this. We're only concerned with the length of the base down here, which is half of the circumference, or 4 of these segments. So we're going to do the circumference divided by 2. Now again, thinking in terms of the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, and we saw this earlier in a different video. Circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius, and we're going to divide this by 2. So we can simplify that formula to say that the base is going to equal, so the base equals pi times the radius. Now let's look at the height. The height is the distance from the top here to the bottom, and it forms 90 degrees with the base. Okay, so this is the height. The height, as you can see, is the same as the radius of the circle. So the height, h, equals the radius, r. So let's finish now looking at the area in terms of a circle. So the area is going to equal the base times the height. And as we said here, the base is equal to pi r, or half the circumference, times the height, which we already said is equal to r. So if we simplify this a little bit, we can say that pi r, and we have 2 r's, so it's r squared. So the formula for the area of a circle is equal to pi times the radius squared. And let's take a green and we'll put a box around this because this is a formula that you will need to know. Let's finish now by looking at two examples where we solve the area of a circle. As we saw in the previous slide, the area of a circle is equal to pi times the radius squared. So keep that formula here just so we can refer to it as we do our calculations. So in the first example, let's take a circle and we'll say this circle has a radius. And we'll say the radius is equal to 4 centimeters. Now to start solving this, as we always do, we start by writing out the formula. So in this case the formula is area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Now we already know what pi is because pi is always 3.14. And from the question we know that the radius is 4 centimeters and this is squared. Now in order to solve this, you're going to have to remember how to do your order of operations, which means you have to remember the bed mass. And bed mass is important in this case because you have to remember to do your exponent before you do your multiplication. So let's do the exponent now. We don't have to do anything yet with the 3.14, so we're going to write that out. But what we will do is this calculation here involving 4 squared. Now if you remember from exponents, 4 squared is the same as saying 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. So down here we will write 16. To finish, let's use the calculator and we'll calculate 3.14 times 16. So 3.14 times 16. That equals 50.24. So 50.24. Now in this unit, this is a measurement unit, so we need to make sure we write down our units. So our units in this case is centimeters, but because we're doing area, it's centimeters squared. So the area of this circle here is 50.24 centimeters squared. Let's look at a second example. We'll draw another circle, and these circles are not at all to scale. And I'll move this one in a second. So I'm just making up the radius, and in this case I'll make up the diameter. And for this one, let's say that the diameter is equal to, 20 centimeters for the diameter. Now, take a look at your formula for area. We have pi and we have radius. But in this example, I gave you the diameter. So before we can use this formula here, we have to do one calculation to find the radius. You might remember from a previous video that the diameter is equal to twice the radius, or that the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. So let's use this here and find the radius. So the radius equals the diameter, which is 20 centimeters, divided by 2. So radius is going to be equal to 10 centimeters. Now we can use our formula for area. Area equals pi times radius squared. Pi is 3.14 times the radius, 10 centimeters squared. We're not going to do anything with 3.14 yet, but we do want to show all our work. So I'll write down 3.14 times 10 squared, which is the same as 10 times 10, which is 100. So we're doing 3.14 times 100. And for this, we can rely on our math skills. We really don't need the calculator to multiply this. We know that 3.14 times 100 is equal to 314. And once again, since this is a measurement unit, we need to put our units. So centimeters, and its area, so squared. So the area of this second circle is 314 centimeters squared. That's all for this video. As always, you can download a PDF version of these slides from our class website. Thanks for watching.